Hello, I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller.
Hello and welcome to the Baller BBL SuperCoach podcast, coming to you through the Baller SuperCoach feed. I am your host and coach of the Terrace crew, Matt Ricks. We have made it back for the second episode of BBL preseason, and joining me once again to get deep into the intricacies of SuperCoach and everything you need to know about maximizing your prospects as a new or experienced player to take out the title this year. It's Coached of Myth on the Myth. How are you, mate?
Doing well, mate. I'm looking forward to this, the nitty-gritty and the foundations of BBL. Get this right and you set yourself up for a very good chance at a good season.
I would say that if you are going well in BBL, it's just because of the concentration of the fixtures, it's just so much more fun. Yeah, like, NRL and AFL are these sort of season-long grinds that you're generating a ton of cash, you're building your squad. This is 100 miles an hour from game day one.
Yeah, you got to go out of the blocks fast and you got to maintain it because it's going to be over before you know it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, mate, we're going to get into what we're calling SuperCoach 101 tonight, and this is everything you need to know, just, all the little details about how you can maximize your point scoring in BBL, because it's just so much more important and there's so much more nuance, isn't there, to BBL scoring as opposed to NRL particularly, but even to AFL.
Yeah, you can just do little tricks here and there to give yourself chances at missing those low scores, getting those big ones, not having to deal with just a really crappy score there. So, but you've got to be playing the game, you've got to be aware, and you've got to know who plays when and then who doesn't play.
Absolutely. We're going to get into tons about looping, the point scoring system, captaincy, vice captaincy, auto emergencies, cash generation, all the fun stuff. It's gonna be really good. Now, before we start though, mate, have you jumped in the Baller 3K league yet?
I haven't.
Oh.
It's on the to-do list.
Mate, you get in there, $3,000 in cash, $2,000 to the winner of the league, $500 for second and third. Pretty confident away from the game. This is the biggest prize in BBL SuperCoach this season. It's free to enter, completely free. Everything on BBL Baller this year is going to be free of charge. So please get along to ballr.live, ballr.live. Go click through the links. You'll be able to join the league. Once you're all signed up as well, make sure you jump into the Discord and give us a follow on all our social media channels. All right, let's kick off Myth tonight, or should I say, let's take the new rock. We're going to kick off with the rules, and I want to talk about looping rules because for our AFL listeners, this is something they're used to. NRL, we do use the loops, but it's a lot less prevalent. The flex has added a little bit more, and that's actually something that's going to add a bit more spice. We had the flex last season in BBL, didn't we? So it's a little bit, we got used to it. What's your approach to looping, and how do you sort of maximize it? Maybe start with the two types of loops. We've got obviously the bench loops and the captaincy loops.
Yeah, so the captaincy loops, I think most people are pretty familiar with. If your vice captain scores big, you're going to captain a non-playing player. So it might be a player on a bye, it might be a player that's injured, someone you know isn't going to play, so you can get that vice captaincy score doubled. That one I think most of us are pretty familiar with across codes. But I guess the one that's not so specific to the NRL players like us is that you can almost choose your emergency for each position. So, for example, I've got a volatile batter that plays early that I don't want to put on field, but I think is going to do really well. I can put the emergency on him. If he goes well, do that same process, have someone in my batters that isn't playing, and then get that score for that player. It just gives you more opportunities at the scores. It really means there's 3 spots in that 11 where you can have 2 cracks at it. You put your first crack as your emergency for each of those positions. They go well, non-player in. If they don't go well, you put a different player in that's going to actually play.
Yeah. And as far as point scoring goes, the captaincy, nailing your captain is essentially a non-negotiable. You're looking at a double game week guy. I'll chat about double game weeks in a minute, but you're looking at a guy for vice captain who's going to be a double game week, and you're usually looking for that. The double game weekers will generally play early in the round. but you really got to weigh up then, have they hit that threshold to loop to be able to loop that score so that you can get that double, or do you want to have to take the risk to then have to put the straight C on either a single game week player or someone else with a double game week?
Yeah, it's always difficult each round weighing up the threshold, and can get a little bit extra tricky if you've got a low score on the emergency and you need to loop the captain. It can get really technical the further you get into it, but maximizing those opportunities for good scores is all of what it's about.
Yeah, and if there are questions out there, make sure you get in the Discord and jump in and ask, because we'll be answering them in there all preseason in the Baller Discord. So, yeah, make sure you signed up with baller.live to do that. Now, mate, it's also worth noting that the dual positions are so critical, and we spoke a bit about this on the first pod. But being able to utilize the dual positions to then loop players is also something that's really relevant. And, we spoke about Will Saltzman, who's the renegade non-playing reserve, but he's a guy that you'll be able to flip up and down depending on where your emergency, where your vice captain, vice captain doesn't matter so much, but if you've got a batting emergency who's gone off and then you need that non-playing reserve up at batter, you can flick him up and flick one of your bat bowls down to the bowling slot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess an easy way to picture that for people listening is if you've got Will Salzman on field and bat, Daniel Sams on field in your bowl, you have Aaron Hardy on your bat emergency, Molly Bearden on your bowl emergency. If Hardy goes well, you keep Salzman in the bat line. If he goes crap but Beardman goes well, you just flip Salzman and Sams, and it's that easy. And then you're laughing. You've got Beardman's score. You've avoided Hardy's dud, and you've got a good start to the round.
Yep. And if they both go off, then you can make provisions later in the round. Either in game week 1, obviously you can just get someone else who might be missing the first round of action, who might come in later, or you want to get another nuff because both your emergencies have got big tons, and you want to get both their scores on the field. So there are little intricacies like that you can just really make sure you're staying on top of to maximize your emergency loops.
Yeah, if you get a big score, you don't want to not be able to take it.
Correct. Now, the other thing with emergency, so making sure you've got the emergency in for NRL players, you get an emergency in each position. So obviously in NRL we only get auto emergencies, which is the lowest scoring player that's not on our bench. This one, there's no bench, it's just emergency. So as long as you've got the one selected, you get one in each position. So keeper, bowler, keeper, batter, and bowler. Flex doesn't have an emergency, obviously. But mate, just talk us through about setting up your team before a game's played. How do you which players should we be having on the bench and which players should be on the field?
I think on the field, you always want to have your guys with 2 roles. So if a guy's batting and bowling, they're usually safe if the floor's a little bit higher. So I think you're putting them on field. I think most double game week players, or if not all double game week players, are going on field. It's those single game weeks, particularly a batsman. I guess the most volatile example might be someone like a Jake Fraser McGurk. When you're going to have him, he could go off. Last year, never really went off until the final round.
Yeah.
But you can just have them there. If they do go off, they get 25 off 10 and they got that 50 score, you can then look at looping it and taking the score. But emergencies of players in teams that have singular roles that start the round with an early game, first or second round, gives you that flexibility to then move your team to get or ignore their score.
Yep. And what about in the sense of which game number of the round they are? So we want to get players on the field who are we want the players in the emergency slots who are in that first game or the second game, so we can make sure that we're looping them. It's something that can just get away with you, if especially when one round ends and then the next round starts.
Yeah, if you don't reset your team in that 24 hours, it can really bite you. You find out that you've got all these players that play in the first game already on field. You can't loop, and then I think you nailed it in the sense that it's a battle of concentration. You got to stay switched on for the entire month of the season, because if you don't, you'll just miss little things like that.
Yeah, and the key is not to. I think as well, like if you do make a mistake, because inevitably you will. Like I mean, NRL and AFL are hard enough not to make these mistakes, but BBL is even more because it's so concentrated. The fixtures, one round finishes, the next starts the next day. There's going to be little errors, but I think the key is just don't let one error get you two down, because you can always make up that ground by just keeping your concentration tomorrow.
Yeah, don't compound the error.
No,
Leave it as one error. Don't make it 3 or 4.
Correct. Mate, nuffs. We spoke about Will Saltzman. Basically, players who don't play, they're just so valuable in this game, because we know we're going to want times where we need to get the emergency on, or we need to loop a vice captain. Round 1, we've got the Hurricanes and the Sixers with doubles. So we want to vice captain a Hurricane in that first game, captain a Sixer in their first game, if our Hurricanes player, whether it be a Mitch Owen or a Tim David or a Nikhil Chowdhury, whoever it might be, doesn't quite go off. We need those guys. We need at least one guy who isn't going to be playing to loop that score if they do go off, I should say. You said on the first episode that you're a bit 50-50 on Will Saltzman. Is that really going to come down, do you think, to how that Hobart game goes first up?
Yeah, that first game, which I think is actually Scorchers and Sixers.
Sixers, sorry. Wrong way around. Way around. Sixers.
Wrong way around. Yeah, I think it'll really depend, because from that round 4 onwards, there's buys pretty much every week where you wouldn't actually need enough. But those first 3 rounds you do. I think more than likely I will, just to be able to not have to burn a trade on enough. It's just handy to have there. But I can see an argument against it. I'm really praying out for a wicketkeeper bottom dollar.
Yeah.
Nuff. That'd be even better, because that wicketkeeper spot, I would have no hesitations on wasting a spot on enough there. The bat and bowl lines, just especially the bowl line, so much more valuable. And if I don't need enough there, I would much rather not have one.
That's one of the great cheat codes, which is not that well known, the wicketkeeper nuff, because you basically get him and then 2 other wicketkeepers, one in your keeper line and one in your batting line, and you can flip them around as required to be able to loop a keeper, which is just, it's so valuable.
Yeah, especially there's not even many. I think Rizwan's the most expensive keeper at the international base price, which kind of gives you the idea of how well the keepers were scoring last year.
Yeah, no, it was a absolute graveyard last year for SuperCoach points wicketkeeper. Good to see Sammy Harper back. That bloke has been in everyone's team for about 6 years and never done a thing. But yeah, I can't ever not have him. He's just in my team every year. I don't know why, but just must be the schedule or something.
65K and you walk out and see the final team list and he's opening and you're like, well, he's got a double. Can't go bad in both innings. And then scores 13 across the double.
He's got some good content out there, actually, Sammy Harper. He might be we might have to see if he's a BBL nuff at some point, but a SuperCoach nuff at some point. But yeah, he seems like a good fella, but hopefully he has a good season for the Stars. And yeah, thankfully we won't have to start with him though this year. Never say never.
It's in the realms of possibility. Maybe he'll be a loop.
It is. Yeah, he's we'll see. I don't know who else the Stars have got there. I think you opened the batting in the Shield there. They got 80 odd, so he might be in some good touch. Anyway, double game weeks, mate. So we touched on this a little bit. Hobart, Sydney round 1, Heat, Thunder round 2, and then back to Sydney and
Hobart and Stars round 3.
Hobart and Stars round 3. So for anyone who is very new to this game, tell us about double game weeks and what they are, because this is just not a concept that exists in NRL or AFL.
To try and put it as simply as I can, they'll play 2 games in the round and they'll get points for both games. So if they score runs in both games, they'll get points for the round from both games. It seems like a lot, but it's not too complex in a way of they're just going to get more opportunity to score points for that round.
Yeah. So very straightforward on what it actually is, but the impact on your squad management, I think, is the really outsized issue here. We really have to be thinking ahead and looking at these doubles to maximize the amount of double game week players that we have in every single round of the season. So there is a bit of a diminishing returns, because obviously only so many players can do anything in a given match. But statistically speaking, if you have a double game week, you're just a much higher probability to do well, particularly if you've got those good roles. So those guys with excellent roles are just non-negotiables on double game weeks, aren't they, Myth?
Yeah, if someone's batting and bowling regularly, don't fade them on a double. It's just don't get fancy there. You can get fancy and take on high-owned players. A pure bowler, pure batsman, go for your life. Don't take on the guy that bats and bowls. Done it before myself, and it has hurt.
Yeah, and it's not like we're not talking a factor of like 20 to 40 points here. These guys go bonkers. Like we've seen scores over 200 in double game weeks, and if you don't have them and you haven't captained them, like captaincy scores, I think we see them at least once or twice a season in the 400s.
Yeah.
So season over if you don't own.
Pretty much. There'll be one or two captains throughout the season that if you do not own, you're just not going to be up that pointy end.
Yep. On the single versus double game week, so I try to get as many score involvements as I can. So as many double game week players. I look forward sort of that generally, well, to be honest, as far into the season as I possibly can. I've got a plan for which teams, for how many players from a team I want in each round. And I'll sort of try to stick to that pending, cash generation, which we'll get to in a minute, but more pending like who are the guys who are sort of just prevailing as the must-have informed guys with the great roles. Role is always the most important thing here. I want to understand your approach, mate, to going, okay, this guy's got a double, but I'm not going to get him. I'm going to stick with the single guy that I've either got or I want to get in because he's got such a great role and he might have a double game week coming up in 2 or 3 weeks' time.
I think price changes is a big thing to do with it. If you can see this guy's got a good role and is a good chance of averaging at that 65, 70 mark, and then you're debating with like a 35, 40 point double game week player, then you're almost going, I might sacrifice a little bit now to maybe save myself 20K or 30K in cash gen, get one trade ahead on next week, maybe it allowed me to get an additional double game week player in future where I might get more than that 10, 15 points benefit. So really thinking that long term about not just this singular week. Is this because in all likelihood, if you take a single game week over a double game week player, you're going to lose out on points that week. So where are you going to make it up? Is it like, for example, in our starting teams, I'm taking a Heat player over the extra Sixers player because, to put it simply, this does not change the amount of double game week players I'll have over rounds 1 and 2. My numbers will be the same. It's just one more next week. That's obviously going to be a huge factor.
Yeah. I think it's as I really want to dig into cash generation in a sec, but I think that's just really interesting as well. The quality of those guys across a multiple week period. So picking up guys who we know have the great roles, non-negotiable guys, but sort of the guys who are a bit on the borderline with their role, or it's not quite clear, or there's team changes that are going to impact them. They're the ones who I think you can look to fade but it's only if the right single game week player has prevailed themselves that week, and that's not going to happen every week. So generally, you can just go, okay, I'm just going to go with a double. There could be a price component, like you said, though. If they are going to leak cash, you're basically compounding the bad decision. It's not say it's a bad decision. You're compounding the issue at hand. If you've got someone in for that double and they've gone 20-20 and they've lost 30 to 40,000 in cash as well.
Yeah, it can easily compound it. And I guess the other part as well is the trading out of the player. It's all well and good to have it for that singular round, but if that player you're picking is just because of the double, and then for whatever reason you can't get them out, and instead of it's 2 games of this player versus 1 game of this really good single player, it's 4 games from this crappy player and 3 games from this good player, that's when you're going to start to lose out. So being conscious of who's going in and out and how many players you're going to be left after the double of players of singular roles that don't actually bat and bowl, you've got to look at that too.
Yeah, that's the thing that's burnt me. The amount of times I've had in a double game week guy who's then only worth, 75K, and you can't make the moves that you want to for the upcoming doubles. So, it might mean having to go for a Joel Paris instead of a Mark Steckity from the Stars, or something like that. Two massive names there, obviously, but that's where we are for Baller 101. Mate, cash generation, we know how crucial it is in AFL and NRL. I've got to be honest, it's not something that I prioritise in BBL. It is something I take into consideration for future moves. So like I just said, if I know that this is going to cost me a move, or highly likely to cost me a move in the weeks following from this round where I'm going to lose cash, I tend to think that if I'm getting the players right and the roles right who are priced at value, that cash generation is going to take care of itself. And I would be less likely to trade in a cash cow who's going to make me a lot of money in the next round if they're only a single game week player, particularly if they're bat only. I'm just not really generally one to go and touch them. I'm going to go to maximise score involvements. So that's worked for me historically, but I don't know that that's definitely the optimal strategy. How do you go about generating cash and the importance of it?
I'm probably similar, that I don't give it too much attention. I think maybe a trade or two early doors if someone emerges with a very clear positive role that's at a very cheap price, even if they are just on singles. But if someone just comes out of nowhere and is priced at 39K and they're getting 4 overs in that first game, they look good, even they're fielding in a decent spot, then I might be like, okay, maybe I want to get this guy in before, instead of being 60K, he's 120K and there's 80K gone. I think if it's a very easy and very quick cash gen that looks reliable, I want to jump on it quickly. But other than that, I think there's so much value out there, particularly this year, that you don't really have to think too much about cash gen, because some of these players are just so unders that they're going to make mockery of their price tags.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just having a look at some of the NRL articles, I think we're going to see the same in NRL next year, for better or worse as well. We should say that as well, different to the winter codes, price changes actually occur after the first round as well. So there's no 3-game grace. There's no 3-game grace period here. It's straight into price changes. So that's another risk with taking these higher price guys in game week 1. You really want to be confident of their role sight unseen, I think.
Yeah, you don't have much choice, but you also can't go against them, because if they do pop off, you don't want to be chasing your tail after round 1. Say you get fancy and avoid Mitch Owen at 190K and he comes out with the same form that he showed last year, you're just behind 60, 70% of the competition from round 1.
Can't take on these double guys. I'm talking more about your Maxwells or your Shorts, or the guys with the single game weeks at that sort of high price point, who, if they fail in round 1, not only have you got a low score out of them and the money you've invested, but you got to take a cash hit then as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of reliance on one game. Like, they get a good rock, short of Maxwell, they don't bowl as much as you thought, then all of a sudden you're left with a dilemma. And crappy score on field.
And it's you've really cornered yourself, because you have to make it. And Maxwell you won't trade because he's got the double in 3, but Short, like, if he scores sub 40 round 1, and you're stuck with him then with a big break even and no double game week in sight, and a role that you're not as happy as you were with 2 days ago, that's not a situation that I really want to find myself in.
No, so maybe the more cash gen thing, it's not about making cash, but it's about avoiding cash loss.
Correct. I think that's a really good point. Really good point. It's about making sure that you're not going to lose that cash, and making sure you're placing yourself in a good position to make the trades you want to make for the upcoming doubles. And I just can't stress enough planning ahead for the rounds, for what you want your squad to look like, and then be flexible, for whatever occurs and the roles that emerge within some of these good value players. Mate, I want to touch on the weather, which, it's not something we talk about a lot. To be fair, we talk about it a little bit in NRL, but not as much, and how important it is. I want to sort of put it in the, we're getting to the end of maybe like round 4 or 5. We've got the next round on the horizon. You've done all your planning. How many days ahead are you looking on the bomb? or another reputed website. I've actually got a tip for a website for everyone in a minute. But how many days ahead are we looking here at the weather forecast, mate?
I'm probably looking 7 days ahead, I would say, about the weather forecasts. But I guess what I'm looking for in that is I'm looking for a lot of rain. So if it's a one day that happens to be the game 7 days from now has got rain, but it's sunny either side of that, I'm not paying too much attention to that. But if it's like 4 days of like torrential rain is predicted for a week's time, I'm giving some attention to that because they have to be very, very wrong for that to not eventuate. Whereas the other one, they only have to be a little bit wrong.
Yeah. And there's other implications from obviously the game getting called off completely, worst case scenario, shorten rain affected games. But then even if you do get those kind of forecasts, you're also likely to get a chance of getting a bit of a spicy pitch as well.
Yeah. They go out and play, and then all of a sudden your opening bowler's got 3 in the first over. The games are over. It's 6 overs either side, but your bowler's got 85 points.
Yeah, it's just so critical that you're looking at the weather, both ahead and on the day of the game. Don't want to get caught with your pants down. I do recommend, completely unsponsored, go to yr.no. The Norwegians, they do weather better than anyone. Best forecast site, hands down. I know producer Gramsci's probably not going to agree with me, but I've been using that for years and years for both BBL and NRL forecasting. They're very, very good on the longer term forecast, not quite as good on day of the game, but go check them out, yr.no, for your weather. Mate, scoring system. So just a quick 101 on the scoring system. So we know that you get a point per run, pretty straightforward stuff. But also in the batting, we have the strike rate bonus. Now, this is really important because this brings guys like Tim David right into calculations. If you can score at above 160, then that's 25 in bonus. But obviously the qualifier there is you have to score 20 runs or more. I don't know how many times I've sweated up my guy getting to 20 because it's all gravy from there. But those bonus strike rates are very, very important, aren't they, Myth?
Oh, they're so crucial. There's nothing like seeing a guy on 18. They hit the ball in a space. You see them run the first one. You're like, get back, go, go. You're just praying that they can run that second because just that anxiety just drops when they've got that 20 runs and you know that the strike rate bonus is now available. Makes such a huge difference. And the way it makes someone like Tim David really great hurts someone maybe like a Cam Bancroft that might go more of a runner ball, end up batting for 12 overs and get 47 points off from 47 to 45. It's huge. You want the guys that are going at a really good clip.
Yep. They're about those batters who bat at the top of the order and can go at a good clip. We spoke about on episode 1 how we don't love the bat only guys, and we like to keep them at emergency if we're going to have them at all, just because they've just got such a low floor. There are times when I think there's really a place for those particularly lower owned guys who have great strike rate and bat at the top of the order to fill an emergency slot or, if desperate, a batting slot on field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they can really blow you away. You also get a bonus. So the strike rate bonus starts at 120 and above. So 120 to 190, 129 is 5, 130 to 140, 10, 140 to 150, 15, 150 to 160, 20, and 160 plus 25. So plenty of points off there. You also get a bonus 10 for getting to 50 and a bonus 20 for getting 100, which feels light, although you are going to be on a ton of points, so getting 100, to speak. Down to bowling now, and wickets is 20 points per wicket. You also get a bonus of 10 points for every 3 wickets in a match. Dot ball is a point, so guys who are economical are very important. And the main reason why economy is important is because you get a bonus for that too. So economy rates 4 runs or less and over 25, 4 to 5 runs and over 20 points, 5 to 6 runs and over 15 points, 6 to 7 runs per over 10 points, and 7 to 8 runs per over 5 points. Now, Myth, it's generally considered that bowlers just tend to have a much better floor because, generally you're looking like you're going to get a few dot balls and a wicket. And then if you can get that strike rate bonus, you're sort of looking at 40 points without doing a hell of a lot.
Yeah, especially those guys that maybe get smacked around, don't even get the economy rate bonus, but just accumulate a few dot balls and then just jag a wicket just through a poor shot from the batsman or them trying to go after it at the end of the innings. And even then they end up on something like a 27 or a 28, and it's not the end of the world. It's a bad score, but it's not like you're getting a single digit that these batsmen can just drop so easily. It just makes them so much safer. And it feels like they don't have to play so well to get a good score. I remember Luke Wood for the Stars a few years ago had something like 4 for like 75 or something. He got absolutely carted around and just took 3 junk wickets in the final over that was so meaningless and ended up with a Supercoach score of around 100. It was ridiculous. Terrible bowling.
He was a terrible own. He was a terrible own, Luke Wood. I always remember seeing so frustrated with him because he had all the tools. He just, I don't know, he could never put it together. And then, yeah, like you said, comes out in a game like that and picks up 3 junk wickets in the last over. Mate, that's a good segue. Well, let's get onto that fielding. I'll just go quick. 10 points for a catch, 20 for a run out, and 15 for a stumping. So obviously wicket-keepers probably the most benefited there. Also, obviously, fielders who field in key positions also, can maximise fielding points. But, mate, roles. And so looking at the batting and how you score your points in your batting, we spoke about, obviously the best mix there is high strike rate, bats nice and high. Obviously, if they chuck in a few overs as well. Bowling, we're looking at guys who bowl death because of what you just spoke about there, junk wickets. This is when teams are slogging, particularly teams who bowl first innings. They're guaranteed to be bowling at the death unless they've bowled them out. So, teams batting second, teams bowling second, not quite as good for that. They might never get those death overs. But are those the types of guys, are you really keen to fill your bowling slots up with guys who bowl death?
Yeah. The batsman slot for those that bat and bowl, bowler slot for those guys that are bowling the premium overs, which in my eyes are those power play overs, surge overs, death overs.
Yep.
The more I can get, if my bowler is going to bowl his 4 overs in those 3 time slots, I'm very happy. I'm happy having them on field in a single because they're just going to have that opportunity to get those good wickets.
It's crazy. Batting teams just completely lose their mind in the surge. Like no one can get their head around it. And yeah, like you said, it's basically as good as bowling death, bowling surge. If not better.
They just lose their cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. So I cannot stress enough how important role is. Just you need the guys who bat and bowl. You need the bowlers who are bowling the best overs. And you're just not going to go too far wrong if you can fill your teams up with those, coupled with maximising the amount of scores that you get on your field through double game weeks and maximising your captaincy and vice captaincy scores. So yeah, I'm trying to fill my team up with as many of those players as I can. Myth, we spoke about strength of schedule on the early pod. We've spoken about double game weeks. Initial squad build as well. We've spoken a little bit about on the earlier pod, but I just want to round out today by just talking about a couple of players from these double game week squad teams from the first few rounds who you're looking to lock into your side for game week for round 1.
I think looking at the schedule and the games for game week 1, the first 2 in my side really were Jack Edwards and Ben Dwarshuis from the Sixers. And they're 2 that just won't go anywhere just because they bat and bowl. Edwards is a good batter. Dwarshuis is a good pinch hitter. And then both of them are likely to bowl their 4 overs in that Sixers side. Whilst Edwards is an all-rounder with the cattle that the Sydney Sixers have at the moment, I think he's going to get his 4 more often than not and even bowl in some of those good periods. So I think for me, they're 2 of the first names on my team sheet. even though they probably don't have as good a schedule as the Hurricanes, I'm finding the Hurricanes a bit more difficult.
Yeah, it's less clear with these injuries to Owen and Rian Ahmed, who obviously has had a good stint in the UK in the Vitality Blast, batting at I think we saw these batting at sort of 3 or 4, but he's gone home with injury. So whether he gets back in time, it's not clear. Nikhil Chowdhury with a nice ton in the Shield this week as well. If Ahmed's gone, he's going to have a great role, I think, for the Canes as well. Someone I'm looking at away from the Canes and the Sixers. Obviously, I'm going to fill my team up with those guys, but I think Xavier Bartlett's pretty well priced, 128k. I think he'll be in a lot of teams for around that round 2 double. He's been in my team since the start. Nisa is an interesting one. He's so cheap this year, 93k. He's bat bowl again. He's in my team currently, but I know he's had a few niggles as well, so he's just a bit of a watch. But they're two guys that I'll be pretty keen to start with from the Heat. Dan Sams from the Thunder, also 116k bat bowl. As long as he's fit and firing come round 1, he will 100% be my team up on the batting line. Love me a bit of Dan Sams.
Yeah, on the same wavelength as Dan Sams, you've got Shadab Khan as well. I reckon Shadab probably bats above Dan Sams and probably pretty confident to get his 4 overs, but wouldn't bowl as good a time. So,
but
that's
gets
the discussion we'll probably get to.
Gets to bowl at the showground.
Yeah, gets to bowl at the showground. But I think those Heat seamers and the Thunder all-rounders are definitely topics that I'm sure we'll get into very heavily as we progress.
100%. Hopefully that's just a good few guys there that you can start filling up your team with as we get into it. Mate, that's pretty much the 101. The only thing, the thought that I want to leave the listener with is just around how re-emphasizing how important it is to be able to stay flexible. SuperCoach gives us a great opportunity through the dual positions and through rolling lockouts to be able to make trades as we need to. And that's just so important in BBL SuperCoach, as we said.
Yeah. And look, we're going to be there to help people throughout the season. So if you're not sure about how to set the team up, there's going to be opportunities in the Discord there.
Absolutely. So jump into the Baller Discord. Can't wait to say good day to everyone. Myth, it's been a pleasure again. We've got a couple more weeks of preseason to go before the round 1. It's only going to start heating up more from here. We got the second test as well. Just inject all that into my veins. I can't wait.
Yeah, if it's as entertaining as the first test, we're certainly in for a summer.
Yeah, how good. All right, that'll see us out for the second episode of NRL, here we go, BBL SuperCoach preseason. Thanks again for joining me.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.